Welcome back to the Kaspa Silver YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to answer one of your guys' questions that you have left down below in the comment section. And I do suggest to you guys, if you have any questions, please leave them down below so that you can possibly have your question answered in a video. So this user says, genuine question, can Jonathan potentially rug pull us if he wanted to? What prevents him from doing so? So the short answer to this question is no. Jonathan cannot potentially rug pull us if he wanted to, and if he did want to have some way to rug pull us, it would require him having a large amount of the supply. So to answer what prevents him from doing so is because of how Kaspa is created. Kaspa is an open source cryptocurrency that is fully decentralized and has no centralized governance in it, and there's no way that anyone can manipulate how Kaspa works by just changing the code. And so because Kaspa is open source, you could see that the protocols here are completely open source for anyone to review to see exactly how Kaspa works. And this is basically how Kaspa works in words and in math. And if you want to see how Kaspa works in code, after it gets translated into code, you yourself can actually review this yourself because it is public for everyone to see. And this is the GitHub link to Kaspa, and whatever is written in here in code is exactly what is happening on the Kaspa network today. And if anyone wanted to change the code, let's say they wanted to increase the hard-coded supply of 29 billion coins to 30 billion coins, this would require users to update their nodes. And this is the great thing about having a decentralized system like Kaspa, because the only way anyone can make any changes to the network requires consensus. And so basically everyone has a vote on whether or not they want to accept any changes that come into Kaspa. And not only that, you can update your node, but you also need a miner to start mining to that node so that it is able to enforce those rules on the network. I go into more details about how nodes work on Kaspa, and I do have a playlist here that goes into explaining nodes on Kaspa, why you should run them, and also how you can run a node yourself. So when Kaspa was launched, this was back in November 2021, and it had no private allocations, pre-sales, or pre-mine. And I had mentioned that the only way that Jonathan could essentially rug pull us is if he was able to acquire a very large amount of the supply. But we have evidence that this is not possible. One of the reasons why this is not possible is because Kaspa follows a very strict emission schedule, so that new coins are being created every single month, and the amount of new coins that are being created is decreasing every single month. And currently, as of recording, there are currently 24.6 billion Kaspa in existence, and this is equivalent to about 85.97% mined. And that means there's still about 15% of the supply left to mine. Or in other words, 15% of the supply doesn't even exist yet. We also have information of the inception of Kaspa that lets us know exactly what was going on with the supply in those early days. And if you are new to Kaspa, you probably don't know this already, but Kaspa did have a company that was kind of behind it, but not necessarily a company that was going to issue Kaspa itself to the world. Instead, this company was focused on researching Kaspa and developing the code for it. But because of lack of funding, they were not even able to really finish Kaspa, and they decided to give it to the community and allow anyone to mine Kaspa in a fair miner. And this is exactly how Bitcoin worked in the early days. When Satoshi created Bitcoin, he basically just sent an email out to a group of people who would probably be interested, and they could start mining with Satoshi in the very early days. And so it's pretty much no difference. And in my opinion, Kaspa is actually more decentralized in its inception because Kaspa did have a Discord that existed in the early days where you can actually go in there and start learning about Kaspa and know exactly when it would launch. So there were probably at least 100 people next to daglabs, a company that had about 30 to 40 people, and next to polychain that was actually mining Kaspa all at once. So all the Kaspa that was being mined in the very early days was in a very competitive manner. And we know that daglabs, which was founded by Jonathan and have some of the other researchers that are still today working on Kaspa that were a part of daglabs, they were able to acquire about 850 million coins next to polychain as well. So both of them combined collected about 850 million Kaspa coins. And if we are comparing that to the supply of Kaspa today, that is probably less than 3% of the entire supply of Kaspa, especially since there's still 15% of the supply that doesn't even exist yet. So really, this 3% of the supply that is owned by at least 100 people or so can essentially be dumped on people, but it's no different than any other coin that gets launched in the beginning. You're going to have the early holders that are able to dump on people, but what's significant is that these people are individual people, and that polychain is pretty much the only VC that got into Kaspa early, but they also got into Kaspa in a very fair manner only by mining. So the only way the price can be manipulated is by selling, and the only way people were able to get Kaspa was by mining it or purchasing it on an exchange, which is exactly how everyone else is able to acquire Kaspa. So this is why Kaspa is a very, very fair launched project, and there's really nothing to worry about. And we don't know exactly how much Jonathan himself holds, and I don't think that's really important to know. If my opinion, I think it would probably be a problem if we knew exactly how much he held. But it doesn't matter because he acquired all the Kaspa in a fair manner. And if you have any more concerns about daglabs and polychains and Kaspa being fair launch, I made a video over a year ago going a little bit deeper into this, and you can go ahead and check out this video, and there should be a link down below in the description that will link you to this video and a card appearing on the screen here. But if we go over here to the top polychain capital portfolios, you could see that Kaspa is number 5 in the list of cryptocurrencies that polychain has acquired. They've even acquired Bitcoin because polychain capital is just a VC that looks for new potential opportunities and new coins, and Kaspa was something that caught their eye, and they were able to get a supply of Kaspa by simply mining Kaspa with CPUs in the early days in a fair, competitive manner. So this is not really like an allocation to polychain capital, but instead a fair issuance of Kaspa to polychain capital. And if we're comparing to something like ICP, which has a clearly unfair launch, you could see that this unfair launch has resulted in the chart looking like something like this, with the price starting at over $400 and an insane dump of the coins on the market to now ICP pretty much struggling to ever hit this all-time high ever again. And if we go and look at the token issuance, you could see that 52% were given to seed private sales. So these are people who were able to acquire ICP before it was given to the world. And this doesn't exist in Kaspa. Kaspa was given to the world, and anyone that was able to discover it was able to mine it and acquire it. And once it got listed on exchanges, you can also buy it as well. And so Kaspa is much fairer than most of these other cryptocurrencies that people like to hold on to. And it's quite funny when people try to make fun of people thinking that Kaspa is fair launch and try to say that it is not really fair launched. They are usually promoting a coin that has something like this kind of allocation where 52% goes to private sales, 20% goes to early backers, and 14 and 10% goes to pre-sale. Just all of the coins basically went to insiders in the beginning, and this is the kind of chart that you get because of this unfair launch that this coin had. And this hurts decentralization greatly because now everyone coming into this coin is pretty much just exit liquidity for the people that were able to acquire this coin in bulk in the very, very early days. So we don't really have any official amounts of Kaspa that Jonathan holds, but we can assume that it's no more than 850 million, and it's probably way less than that, just because that 850 million is divided up between a VC company, Polychain Capital, and about 30 to 40 members that were working at daglabs. Now, one of the researchers, Shai, has been a little bit more open about how much Kaspa he holds, and he's just more of a vocal person in the community. So what we have here is Shai letting us know how much Kaspa he actually got from daglabs and his strategy to sell it, which by all means he is more than willing to do so, because it is a free market and there's nothing wrong with people who work on a specific project to sell their coins, because it is a free market and they should have all the rights to do that. And so Shai over here says, when the Kas I got from daglabs, which was 3.9 million, reaches the value of 1 million NIS after tax, I will sell it. After that, the plan is to sell 10% of my bag whenever the price doubles, so that the dollar value of my Kas is always increasing. In particular, I intend to hang on to some amount of Kas forever, while taking enough profit for financial freedom. And so here, Shai has been a little bit more open about how much Kaspa he got from daglabs. And recently, he actually talked about him selling some of this Kaspa for the first time, pretty much. And he says here, look, guys, I really have to say this. I got 3.9 million Kaspa from daglabs. Other than that, I mined/bought some more. After the great appreciation of the last 2.5 years, I found myself in a position where 95% of my net worth is in Kaspa. So felt it is time to diversify. I don't really like crypto trading in general, so I decided I will sell the coin I got from daglabs and keep the rest in Kaspa. Why selling the portion I got from daglabs? Because it is much easier in terms of taxation. That's all. The reason I am open about how much I got from daglabs and how much of it I sold is exactly because I don't want people speculating about how much I hold, whether I dump, etc. I sold around 1 million Kaspa at 20 cents. My broker and other people told me to sell for less so I would have better hedge for my fortune faster. They wanted me to sell all 3.9 million for 16 cents, but I insisted because I personally believed, and I cannot stress enough how much this is not financial advice, that we would reach 20 cents. Right after I sold 1 million Kaspa for 20 cents, the entire world economy took a huge dip due to Japan's curveball. They increased national interest sharply overnight, making many yen-based loans no longer profitable, and forcing many investors to sell anything not affixed to the ground to repay these loans ASAP. This dry liquidity for many markets, including the Japanese, Singaporean, American, and European stock markets, and obviously crypto. The timing was a huge coincidence, and I just looked out to sell the top. Before the dip, I had another sell command for 1 million at 35 cents. It is still there. So he's basically just being more clear with us how much Kaspa he's selling and at what price targets. And of course, this isn't financial advice. I mean, Shai is no different than all of us holding Kaspa. He really doesn't have any more power over Kaspa than any one of us here. He basically, the only power he has is just a pretty much strong voice, because he is very credible. He's done a lot for Kaspa, but other than that, there's pretty much nothing that anyone can do to simply just rug pull Kaspa. There's no code that they can change or anything like that. Kaspa's protected from all of that because of its decentralized nature. So again, the only way that the price can essentially rug is if people sell Kaspa. But as we can see from the clear evidence, people clearly do not want to sell their Kaspa. If we check the inactive supply for the last 3 months, you could see that over 62% of Kaspa has not been moved. In the last 6 months, you could see that over 48% of Kaspa has not been moved. In the last year, over 23% hasn't been moved. And in the last 2 years, it's approaching almost 7% of Kaspa not being moved in the last 2 years. So there's a lot of Kaspa that is just sitting in wallets because people are showing that they essentially just want to hold on to the Kaspa because they believe in the long-term potential of Kaspa. So I hope this answers your question, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Before we go, if you guys are interested in getting a good cold storage device to keep your Kaspa offline and off exchanges, Tangem is offering a 10% off if you use my code Kaspa Silver at the checkout. When you use my code, I do receive a commission for this, and it greatly helps support the channel. And I do recommend that you do get the 3-card set so that you do have more security, so you're not reliant on just 2 cards if one of them was to go missing or in a rare case stop working. But Tangem is a good cold storage solution to get started, keeping your Kaspa offline and off exchanges so that you have complete control over your Kaspa. Thank you again so much for watching this video. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here, and if you do have any other questions, please leave them down below so that I can make videos answering those. And as always, don't be average, be different.